Hi, welcome back. So this section of Chapter 8 talks about polar coordinates. The first thing I want you to understand is that polar coordinates is just another method of locating a point in space. Up until now, we have been using Cartesian coordinates. And when we use Cartesian coordinates, we specify an x, y, which really means that we are talking about the distance a point is from the origin, the fixed point, the origin, in terms of horizontal and vertical displacement. So for example, we know that the point -4, 3 can be located in space very simply, right? -4 and 1, 2, 3, right there. Yes? Okay. When we are talking about polar coordinates, we are specifying a point in space on a circle, really is what we're doing. So we're going to give a radius and an angle of rotation. So this is the distance from the origin, which is r, at a specified angle of rotation, which is theta. So let me show you a polar coordinate system. So Desmos can be made to give you a polar grid. And this is what it is. And we're going to look at equations in a later video. But right now I just want to talk about the polar coordinate system. You can see everything is in circles with spokes along our standard angles of rotation. Now we're going to talk in a minute about how to go between rectangular and polar, but it helps if we understand polar before we try to do that. So let's make sure we understand what a polar coordinate system means, and then we'll talk about the relationship between the polar coordinate system and the rectangular coordinate system, because the reality is this is still just a point in space. So let's talk about, for example, the point 3, 5 pi over 6. We're going to graph this on the polar coordinate plane. Now what this means is we are looking for the point on a circle of radius 3 that is at an angle of rotation of 5 pi over 6. So let's see. Of course, 3 is, this is right there. So how do I know that? Well, this is a radius of 3 at an angle of 5 pi over 6, because this spoke is a radius, or is an angle of 5 pi over 6. This spoke, anything along this spoke, is at a positive rotation of 5 pi over 6. Now, the radius circle, so this whole circle is a circle of radius 3. So we know the point is going to be on that circle and at that angle of rotation. Now, how can things get interesting? Well, things can get interesting, for example, if you've got, so this is 3, 5 pi over 6. We could also be asked to graph the point -2 pi over 4. So, okay. What's a radius of -2? Well, the negative means which direction you go. So think about it this way. If we're on our pi over 4 spoke, that's this guy, and that means we're somewhere on this circle with radius 2. If I go this way, that's the point 2 pi over 4. If I go the other way, that is -2 pi over 4. So if we go back to that point that I graphed a minute ago, this would be the point -3, 5 pi over 6. And these arrows are just for reference. They aren't really part of the graphing. Okay. Yes? All right, so let's make things a little more interesting. Or let's not. Okay. Okay. So that's the basics of the polar coordinate system. I'm going to come back in the next video, and we're going to talk about converting points between polar and Cartesian.